Oh, don't have so much fun.
Show and tell.
All right. All right, Michael, we're going to do a lean management training program. This is for information only.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Good morning.
The question's going to be, how does the public get to see that on TV?
You know what? We'll have to.
Just kidding you.
Yeah.
We'll get it up there somehow. All right.
It's all for your benefit. How's that
All
sound?
right. All right.
Michael Saloga for the record. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of the board. Back in January, you authorized funding for all of us to get trained on lean management and the continuous process improvement activities. And I'm here to kind of tell you where we have gone at this point and what we've accomplished. I did ask a few people to attend that had participated, and I can't say that any of the gentlemen and ladies in orange are any of those folks, but it's always nice to see lots of people that can attend. So anyway, so what we're going to talk about is what we did, the processes that we improved, the results that we achieved, and what our next steps are. So, all right. So what we did, the first off, is we, Rishi Mohatra, who is our contracted person through Moss Adams. Sorry about the presentation that unfortunately one of the projectors I've been told has gone down, so hopefully you can still see from over there. Our contact at Moss Adams, Rishi Mohatra, was our guru, for better lack of a term, to basically come in and teach not only myself, but also members of the staff in the process of how to implement lean here in Carson City. So the first thing that we did is we met with representatives from all the different departments. We spent 2 hours of time with each one of those representatives, and we gave them some overview training and also developed some high-level current state maps, things that weren't as detailed as what's on the floor in front of you, but it was to get them the sense to start thinking about things in, oh, now we have the projector up and running, to give them a sense really of where we were going with the project and the kinds of things that we could actually accomplish with lean. So out of that, we identified 5 processes that we could improve, and we conducted 4 Kaizen events. Kaizen means change for the better, and 1 5S workplace organization. So just to give you a sense again, to remind you, 5S stands for sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and then sustain. Okay, so also now to give you a sense of, to remind you a little bit about what a Kaizen is all about. These events were typically 3 to 4 days long, and from that standpoint, we started out with training. We would take a couple of hours and go through very specific instructions so that everybody knew exactly what to expect. We would then get into finalizing what's called a charter document. In your packet, you have the charter documents for each of the Kaizen events. The focus on that is to identify the scope of what is going on in each one of these, as well as identify the problems and the people and everybody else that was going to be going on during the events. The idea is to put it all on one piece of paper, keep it nice and simple. The first thing that after that then we would do is would develop a current state map. It's basically a flow chart like what you see in front of you. We used pretty low-tech stuff. We're talking about butcher paper and Post-it notes, and that's because as discussion ensued, we would go about changing things. Supervisor Bagwell, Supervisor Shirk, you guys both had a chance to actually kind of pop in and actually see the process a little bit. So I wanted to bring this really more for the other members of the board. After we had developed that, then the current state map, we would turn around and tell people to say, put down, where are your pain points? Where are the issues that are just very difficult? Is there a gap in what you're getting as far as information? Is there customer information that essentially is not happening? Personal pain points is, my job is difficult because. And so as you can see on the floor, basically all the little red dots where pain points used to be, our focus really there was to identify more pain points than there were processes, many processes within this. So we could go back, because the idea here is to make it ugly. This is not something, if there's something to be fixed, we want to know what it is. And so the idea here is to identify and focus on process, not on people. Okay? Big distinction there, and we want to make sure everybody understands that. So from that, then, what we did is we all sit down and talk about a future state map. What do we want this process to look like in the future? And so from that standpoint, this is where we start to talk to IT. We start to talk to the people that really own the process and say, where do we want to go in the future with this? We start identifying costs that may be involved, benefits that may be involved, and how can we make it more efficient. From there, we would develop a roadmap as well as what they call an effort impact chart. We would take each and every single pain point and address it. We would either say it was solved by what we identified in the future state, or we would turn around and say it goes on our effort impact chart, and we need a special task just to deal with that issue. And we would make sure that every single pain point was addressed in those two things. From there, what we would do is then talk about what milestones we achieved, some other things, other benefits that occurred, and a lot of that information then went into what they call the A3 document. A3 just stands for nothing more than the paper size. That it's a European standard for essentially 11 by 17. You've all got a smaller version of that, unfortunately, so you get I know the stuff was small, unfortunately, but in order to make it work in your packet, that's what we ended up doing. So that there is really supposed to be, again, a one-page thing. We're trying to keep it as simple, but hit the high points of exactly what we accomplished in each one of the Kaizen events. And then from there, we would bring in the person or persons that were essentially needed to sign off on this, or basically who is essentially going to own this going forward. In some cases, it would be city manager, or it would be somebody from Public Works, or somebody from finance, and those types of things as we are looking at that. So the 5 processes that we looked at were the permit application process, purchase order and accounts payable, the employee status change form, and some of the things that go along with that, the board packet preparation process, and then the whole workplace organization side of things, we looked at parks maintenance. So those were the 5 that we picked out of the 15 that we really sat down when we looked at all the different departments in the beginning. So I wanted to give you some pictures because these were all people, and part of what I wanted to do also here is to thank a number of people. We had staff from different departments that participated in multiple events, and so I will say this. And again, part of it is, I'm not going to sit here and paint a pretty picture on everything. Many people were very highly skeptical walking into this process. They had no idea what to expect. And so to watch people over the course of 2 or 3 days in a Kaizen event, and then to see them come into a second event, it was amazing to see how the teamwork was involved. They understood what we were trying to do. Again, it wasn't about people and pointing fingers. It was about process. And how do we make the process better? So from that standpoint, we just wanted to show you some of the pictures of the people, some of the folks that I could thank, over because they were just fantastic. Kathy Heath, Karen Leet, Anna Jimenez, Eva Schwalitz. These guys all participated in multiple events, and it really made the process go very quickly. We also had some fun. Somebody had a birthday during one of our events, and so we not only had 1 cake, we had 3 cakes. So that was kind of neat. And you knew that people were getting together when we were doing the building permit application process on the last day. Nobody really said anything to each other. 3 people brought in donuts from the last day. So it was basically really neat to see the silos come down and to basically see people work together. This is just an example of when we talk about workplace organization, this is what it looks like down at Parks Maintenance. We've done some stuff with just some basic office stuff. We're going to get into how they organize this particular location. Part of it actually looks pretty decent right now, but the thing is we want to make sure that we can get the kinds of impact that we can get when things are more organized. Productivity does go up quite a bit, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So let's talk about some of the results that we achieved. Now, part of these results are not necessarily hard documented. We're expecting that we're going to get these. We still don't have things fully implemented yet, and so these are what our expectations are. We hope that these things will come to fruition. With the building permit application process, again, the whole basis behind this is that we'll be taking electronic applications and plans. So from that standpoint, each person who would submit an application, submit their plans, they'd be doing that electronically. They would not be doing it with paper. A lot of times, on average, we feel that it's costing contractors and developers $600 a pop every time they want to come in with plans. Now they just submit those essentially online. We are in the process of looking at doing a partnership with Washoe County so that we can get some costs down on some systems implementation. Those still have yet to be determined, but this seems to be one of the best ways to do it. We may have some interim solutions that may happen in the meantime. Another thing that came out of this meeting was the idea of doing a pre-application review. So this is where a contractor developer would have the ability to sit down with the chief building official, pay an extra $100 up front, and have a whole checklist of everything that they would need to know when they actually came in and submit their application. So, yes, sir.
Michael, when you say building permit saves $600 per permit application, who is saving the $600? The applicant?
That would be the applicant, yes.
Okay. And so that will save the applicant $600, but there's no, will it save anything for the building department to have these electronically submitted to them?
A big one will be that the one in the end, and this is just one of the items. We could go into a number of things, but for instance, right now what happens, all those paper plans are all stored over at the brick. And so somebody from fire, somebody from environmental, somebody from the health department, they have to physically drive over to the brick and actually look at those plans and figure out what they need to do related to their part of the approval process. Now, when we go with an electronic version of this, they essentially will have big screens in front of them. They will not have to do that driving time. And that's essentially a best guess of $75,000 that we'll see on an annual basis. So,
Thank you.
okay.
I want to comment on the pre-application review. I happen to be involved in one on a project that we're doing, and I think that is just phenomenal, that change, because it gives an opportunity for the person applying and all of the parties to come together and maybe resolve issues or mitigate immediately and come up with another rationale that will even save more in drawings and time than just that $600 piece, because we can solve it in the beginning with what's going to be the problem and draw it right the first time. So
And
it was really good.
how we make it better. So, okay, sorry about that. Okay. So with the PO and the AP process, we're looking at staff time pretty much, this is between in-house, in finance, and also in with the staff in the field, that we're going to see about it, the equivalent of an FTE that'll be saved there. They're already in the process of going completely paperless. They're looking to see that things are going so well that they may be paperless in this process by the end of the year. A big one here was reducing the emergency POs. This would be the kind of situation where a purchase may go, but we don't have a PO, but we need to have that PO in order to make sure the process was happening. Based on all of the things that we've done in the whole future state process, those emergency POs have been dropped down to next to nothing. So we've, last conversation with folks in finance, they've had less than a handful in the last month. So really great to be able to see. The field also came up with the idea of eliminating the field purchase order. They found it to be very confusing. It was very difficult to work with and process. And finance was right there, and everybody talked about it and said, yeah, fine, let's change it and let's use the AP batch process through HTE. Faster, easier, cheaper to use. So it was great. That's one of the big benefits of having everybody all in the same room. So, okay. Employee status change form. One of the things that we had, and Supervisor Bonkowski and I went back and forth on a couple of emails related to some things like this. We literally almost called this one a failure. The reason why is because we started to realize that we were focusing too much on the form itself and not the process that was going on around it. So one of the things that came out of it after we kind of re-shifted our focus was the idea that a number of performance reviews were coming in late into payroll. When that happens, the retro pay process is enormous. And so from that standpoint, we put a message out to everybody saying, get your performance reviews done on time, because here's what the ramifications are. Now that's happening. So it's again, having everybody in the room is a good thing. We've also eliminated some approval steps. There's now a report that's going to the city manager so that he doesn't have to sit there twice a week with a stack like this and put his John Hancock on every single piece of paper. So this is an estimate based on his time, okay? A couple of other results we've got going on with the board packet preparation process. We're assuming here at this point that we're going to be doing some interim steps to eventually going to something that is more automated. We're looking at getting new demos on a number of packages. We're working very closely with Eric and IT to see what the possibilities are related to that. We've also are going to be eliminating an approval step with this process. We just had to recently kind of do some catch-up with this one. We asked both Sue and Adriana to attend a special one-day thing because they were not able to attend the regular Kaizen event. And so we had fun with that day, kind of going through the whole process with them and got some really great feedback, and it was great for city staff to be able to listen to what their needs and issues were. Parks maintenance, we essentially filled up an entire dumpster of just old manuals, old stuff that had been dirty and dusty. Dave Navarro, moved from when he got promoted. The guy who took his place, when we were going through his desk, he was finding stuff that was Dave's. Bottom line is, you're going to see productivity improvement when you just clean up people's desks, much less the inventory bins like I showed you in the picture. So we're planning on going back again here probably in September or so as their kind of busy time starts to slow down a little bit. So total best estimate at this point, your investment, which actually turns out to be less than $50,000. Latest invoices I took a look at is about 36 is what was spent. We'll see a total impact of 500,000, which I'm including the 300,000 that would be impacted to the community in general. The reason I'm including that is because one of the things that I try to get across to everybody is that we have to realize that we are in competition. This is from a business development standpoint. When I put my other hat on, people that have the opportunity to develop and be contractors in Carson City, they have options. They can go to other counties. And so if we can turn around and offer them an opportunity where they're going to be saving real hard dollars, that raises the bar basically and gives us an opportunity to compete with other jurisdictions that are right next to us. So, all right, so what are our next steps? We're going to complete the 5S out at Parks. We've already brought in the DA and the clerk's office into the board packet process. We're going to continue to follow up on everybody's tasks lists until things get completed. The other things that we've looked at as far as other processes is going to be the contracts processing. We're going to let Laura kind of get her opportunity to get her feet wet and let the folks in finance kind of, let the dust settle there a little bit from that standpoint. We're also going to be looking at the back end of managing all the boards, commissions, and committees and how that works. And we're also looking at alternative sentencing. Another one, since I put this together, that we do want to take a look at is fleet maintenance. We will not be spending any much time with them anytime soon until they essentially get through all of the items that came out of the Moss Adams efficiency study, which they're still working on. So, but that's definitely going to be on the list. So we're also incorporating all of the lean principles into any major system implementation. So we look at the processes that are going on around the actual systems that are being put into place. I'm also in the process of getting my Greenbelt certification in all of this, so as soon as I get through all of the online stuff, that'll happen. So with that, any more questions? Hopefully, this has been a good summary for you.
Questions of Mr. Sluga. Jim, go.
Michael, I know Moss Adams is not here today, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Are they totally out of the picture now?
They are out of the picture. I may pull Rishi in for maybe some additional stuff related to the 5S with the Parks activity, but at this point they're done. I am the enterprise level person now for lean, so anything activities that go on, it'll all go through me.
And will this be an ongoing process for you within the departments to do the lean?
Absolutely. This is one of those things where we've identified all of the department lean representatives. We'll be checking in with them to make sure that there's projects that we can work on, and we're going to keep moving on this. The idea here is to be a change agent and to change culture here from that standpoint. So we've got, there's work to be done. There's no doubt about that. Some of them may be small, some of them may be big, but we're going to do our best to, basically help everybody else, to understand what the methodology will give them. So.
In tracking this in the future, will you come back to us and give us updates quarterly or yearly or something about where this process is going and how we're maintaining it?
That's more than possible to do that. The city manager and I will get together when we feel like there's something that it's probably worthwhile to participate, get your participation in and show you what's going on.
Thank you.
I just have a comment. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great presentation, and I've been a proponent of this, and I'm thrilled to see that staff is so receptive to this process. It does help everyone, so.
Great, thank you.
Change is not easy, as I find out as I get older. All right. Anybody else? Public comment?